Hey, what's happening, my people? So here is a quick interview that I did live on Instagram at the Dean West and DW Acting Studio. I hope you enjoy it. This is a quick interview with Kenzo Lee. Bye. How is everyone today? I'm having Mr. Kenzo Lee join me in moments of seconds of nows.
Hey man, what's up, buddy?
So when you jumped off, I was talking about, when it was 2009, I was still in Los Angeles and I was putting stuff on tape for the Southeast then, right? And now it's obviously shifted. Everything's online. Callbacks are online. If you even do a callback, sometimes it's straight direct booking, even for guest stars now. And what I think is really interesting is we don't have where you used to be able to gauge your career a tad and be like, okay, cool. So I've got X amount of callbacks and X amount of bookings or director sections or producer sessions. You could kind of gauge. But nowadays, I mean, if you don't book it, you may never know where you landed.
You'll never know. You'll never know.
You could literally have been in second position, but you didn't get it, so you never know, right?
And that's really where it comes in handy, knowing casting, especially now. If you're getting called back to the same office multiple times for a TV show throughout a season, congratulations, you are definitely doing something right.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only feedback you are actually going to get, unless they send a note to your manager and agent going like, dude, guys killing it, keep going. The only thing you'll ever get is a recurring cycle of auditions from those people. Sometimes you won't, because guess what? You're not the right type. But if you do happen to fit into a category and you get that, that's the closest thing you're going to get to feedback. It's not about anything else.
Or you hit the tone of the show. Yeah, you hit the tone of the show right, and they're like, man, he fits our world so wonderfully. We will find a place for him.
We will keep pushing him in as much as we possibly can.
So you said hit the type, which is funny, because so when I was living in Los Angeles, I was with Brillstein Gray at the time, and I got a phone. I went to a callback. They were calling me Callback King at the time, which is great.
Yeah, I remember that time.
You eventually did booking after it. So
they called you that. They called you that one night at the club. I think they called you Callback King at the club. I was like, yeah, Dean West is a Callback King. Everyone knows who he is. He just hasn't booked the job yet.
Yeah,
something like that. I think it might have been Justin Kelly saying that or something.
Just stick around. That's the rule. Just stick around. Eventually something happens. And I remember my manager calling me. He was like, hey, look, I just got to let you know, they love you, all right? They love what you're doing. They said you are just a fantastic actor. And I was like, all right, that sounds great. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, so what's the feedback? What do I need to do? What's up with why aren't I booking it then?
Why are you leading with this and not a congratulations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So their feedback was, he doesn't know how good looking he is.
It's true.
I had no clue what to do with that. I'm like, what do I do with that, right? So I go back, because they were like, they want to see you again. They just wanted you to get that note and see if that adjusts. I'm like, okay. So I go in, I do the audition, I get out, and I'm waiting for the phone call. I'm sitting in my car, right, in LA, drinking a Starbucks, of course, and just hanging out, waiting. Phone rings, agent, manager, actually. I'm like, hey, what's up? What's the deal? What did you do? I went in and did the audition as a hot guy. Their feedback directly was, you seemed a little douchey. And I was like, well, to be fair, I work in clubs. Everybody I know that thinks they're really hot,
pretty douchey. Pretty douchey.
They're like, all right, don't do that. Whatever you did,
please don't do that. Don't ever do that again.
It goes to type, right? Because in the long run, you can audition all day long. It doesn't matter how good of an actor you are. If you are still trying to act a type, you're not booking that role, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, you either own your look and you're aware, like, this is me, I'm this guy, and this is where I fit right now. And later you can venture out, but at first, figuring it out. Do you look like a cop? Are you getting like 20 cop auditions and you keep playing them as a cop but not owning it? Okay, let's dive into understanding that cop mentality and what can you do to fit that world better.
Right. And that's about diving into actually more than just reading the lines and trying to figure out even the tone of the show. It really comes down to walking in those shoes. I mean, military is a great example. The military and police are a great example of that. If you haven't ever walked in a beat cop's shoes and understood kind of what they do, it's hard to try and play that, actually understand the aspects of that role. Same with the military. You know, my wife's in the Marine Corps, and it's definitely a challenge because even that mindset, the mentality, the way they stand, the way they talk, you would have to sit here and have a conversation with the Marine for weeks, if not months, to really get that mentality because they spend 6 months being basically broken down
right,
and then rebuilt back up, and they're all in the exact same mold. Like even just sitting there at parade rest, if we sit there like that, we don't know what it feels like to be stuck in there after 3 days of a crucible and all those kinds of things like that. So it's a lot more than just reading the lines off a page and potentially looking like it. It's about walking in. You got to walk into it. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, I mean, all the way from posture to everything, right? I mean, that's one of those roles that like, it's gotta get past, it's gotta get into the muscle memory. It has to get past the intellectual, I know I'm a cop and this is how a cop would stand, you know? Like once you get past that and you understood the mentality of why they do these things, you've done a little. What's great about YouTube, man, you can go literally look up anything and watch and understand and at least get a better perception of these human beings. So let's jump into this thing. We were going to cover a little bit of detail between auditioning for comedy versus auditioning for drama. And I hadn't caught up on your work lately, so I popped on to check out one of your later comedy reels, and I got to say, a lot of Asian jokes.
Yeah,
I don't understand it. You know, like why?
It's okay. Well, it's because you're white. It's fine. You'll never understand.
Okay. I tried. I'm kidding.
I know. There's only so much tape you can put on your eyes to try and make it work, and only so many fortune cookies that you can inhale after Chinese food in Louisiana. You know what's really interesting about it is that like since right before COVID started, and this is going to go a little bit off subject, but it'll come back to it.
It'll come back.
Yeah. I do a lot of commercials. Commercials were my bread and butter for a very, very long time. They still are. Commercials are still my thing that I book the most of consistently on a regular basis. And there was a transition in commercials over the last 3 or so years into becoming much more simple, much more realistic, much more honest. We've seen it happening. You see how many much more castings there are for real people casting.
Right.
And we all sit there and go, but we're actors. I got to feel this Amazon package coming into my hands. You know, that's what we think about. Why am I not doing anything? That's the point. You're not doing anything. But you're feeling it all. You're thinking about everything. And it comes down to the idea of what is the tone of commercials now. Commercials have become much more honest and realistic. And it is very, very challenging to be a large sketch comedy style actor and have to hone in and do these kinds of commercials. And you've seen it. You've seen a bunch of people who used to always consistently booking commercials. They still only do comedy-based commercials. They don't do these slice of life ones or even these testimonials where like, I use Tide Pods, but I keep them away from my children. You know, those kinds of things. You don't see this as much. You don't see the same people cross over there.
Perfect example.
Flo's a phenomenal comedic actress, but also as well, you only know her as Flo, but she does all this stuff for Groundlings. Stephanie Courtney has been around the scene for a very long time
as well.
Yes.
It's just obviously, you know, it's like it's part of that building your type, getting known as your thing, and then like having to try to venture out. Jim Carrey, you know, eventually was able to do it. But again, it takes someone like a Jim Carrey and a Matthew McConaughey to literally go produce their own movie to push themselves out of that place versus I've been known as, you know, blah, blah, blah for so long. It's hard for me to jump to a completely different deal and people believe it.
Yeah. And it's also very challenging because, like, you know, look at the Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks did a lot of comedy, obviously, at the beginning of his career, and slowly was able to segue in using roles like Big and Forrest Gump that, you know, have pieces of comedy in them, but are dramatic. And so what I'm trying to get to at the end of the day is that we're discovering as commercials got more realistic, they've gotten closer to drama. They've actually gotten closer to slice of life moments in drama. And what I've now discovered is that, I mean, let's be really honest, comedy and drama really are flip sides of the same coin.
Yep.
It's just circumstances, it's the consequences of actions, and it's delivery. That's about it. Other than that, they're very, very similar. But it's our job as an actor to be able to read into exactly what we're seeing on a page and translating it into one, the other, or potentially both, since there's a lot of crossovers now as well.
Yeah.
And especially when it's a pilot or when it's a feature film that we haven't seen before, we really have to gauge that tone based on what we're reading.
Right.
You know,
if you could, and this is obviously pushing everything into one tip that you think would do the most damage, I guess we could call it, to an actor that had to understand comedy versus a drama audition, what could be like one tip that could word it in a way to make you go, okay, this is how I can lean it for comedy, this is how I can lean it for drama?
When it comes down to comedy, my one tip that would cause all kinds of chaos, the biggest thing is don't try to be funny. Don't try to be funny. Don't try to read jokes. Read experiences. They read the moments. The pilot that I'm going to be doing I'm in 4 scenes, and each one of them they're kind of consecutive. They build on each other. It's going to be 4 scenes interspersed with other stuff. I read the pilot. It's like, oh, this is really funny stuff. But if I tried to play the comedy or try to play the joke of it, it's not going to play the story, the through line of what is going on. Whenever you do anything, specifically, drama is usually based upon what has come before. It's the arc of the character. Right. Comedy is the exact same way. You don't try to play the laugh in comedy. You play the arc of the character and what is going on to them. The situation of the comedy,
the commitment to that situation, right,
is what creates the comic moments. And most of the times as well, also, when you try to be funny, most things are happening to you. Well, things are happening to you. You don't do something to be funny. Something happens to you, and that is what's hilarious. You know?
Situation,
or relationships between the two. It's not specifically trying to be funny. Every time every time I'm behind a casting desk and I see somebody trying to be funny, I'm going like, just stop being funny. Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here reading for a comedic scene. I'm a reader, and I'm giving them every bit that I possibly can to lead them in for this comedy for a straight man role. And all they're doing is just trying to be like, shucking and jiving.
And that's another one. It's like, knowing your place in the comedy. Because, yes, someone is a little bit extra, a little bit weird, a little bit different. That's probably who the story's about. But at the same time, think about old school, The Odd Couple, right? The idea of The Odd Couple is there's a straight guy and there's a crooked guy. One does everything really super clean. One is dirty as shit. That's where the comedy plays out of this relationship between each other, right?
Yes.
But if the two funny, if the funny guy is in the scene doing something weird and awkward, and you're the guy that just comes in to fix the sink, but you're also weird and awkward, it's not funny. It's not going to work, right? Because now you both are weird people in a normal world versus the weird guy in a normal world.
Exactly, which is why Jim Carrey was a great example that you utilized too. Jim Carrey tends to play the weird guy in a normal world, and that's what creates the comedy. It's not that he's trying to be funny, it's that he's weird, and we're laughing at his weird response to normal behavior. Liar, Liar, Ace Ventura, these are characters that are dealing with weird circumstances or are just rather weird people, but he's not trying to be funny.
Right.
It's just, he's insane. He's not.
Yeah. The thing is, like, the commitment level you get to, I would say, like, if I had to give one tip that I think, in a shortest version of a one-liner to help you understand committing to drama versus comedy, leaning one way or the other, I would probably say the level of caffeine. Meaning the amount of give a shit.
Going up and down. Yeah.
If I commit it to a certain level, it's not, I can't make it funny, but I can commit more to this being my thing. And if you're messing up my thing, then it angers me more in the comedy that I've got to keep shit down. Right? It's
I gotta keep the shit down because everyone's watching me. Okay, that's not where that goes. It's the Monica. It's the Monica and Friends is what you just did right there.
Yeah.
What we laugh about is, okay, and this is we're going to get into typing. This is perfect here.
Go for it.
If you do the Monica, let's take the Friends model. Take the 3 girlfriends model. Perfect. Phoebe, the weird one.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that she does is weird. Comparable to the over meticulous one, which is our Monica. And we got our Rachel, who everything
Everything's
seems
perfect.
to happen. Everything's perfect.
Right.
Everything happens to Rachel. Everything goes wrong because Rachel expects to be perfect and just falls apart.
Yeah.
Those are three perfectly very different types. Three different leading ladies. One of the things we talk about constantly with friends is that we always talk about how there was 6 leading characters in a show, and you usually see what, 2 or 3 that are leads, and then 3 or 4 that are ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't necessarily exist in Friends.
First
and
one.
It's very rare to have it, but now that's the norm.
Oh yeah.
How I Met Your Mother is another prime example of that. Modern Family.
So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you want to see the full interview with me and Kenzo Lee, you can also join thedeemwest.com/DWAS-TV. That's TWAS TV, and I'll put the link down in the description. Don't forget to like and follow.